Looking for some inspiration? You've come to the right show. Step into your divine feminine energy with me as I spill the tea on leadership and life. Hi, I'm Tracy M., your host here on Brave Girls, and I've got your back, and no mean girls are allowed. I've been called the fairy godmother of storytelling, and my gift is to unearth people's stories, share them, and make the world a better place for all of us. So sit back, relax, and listen in as we send some more positive vibes out into the universe. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the show today. I'm super excited to have my good friend and sister, fellow storyteller, podcaster, connector extraordinaire, Baltimorean, aka sister from Morgan, on the show today. She is the owner of Big Media Agency. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It's a full service integrated marketing and communications firm in the DMV that does all the things, right? So we play in the same space. We met 2010, 2011, like a long time ago. But right. So anyway, Christina, welcome to the show and tell the people who you are and what you're all about.
Well, first of all, Tracy, thank you so much for welcoming me to the show. Thanks for having me on. Well, it's interesting when you say, what am I all about? I'm all about a lot of things. As you mentioned, I am the founder and owner of Big Media Agency, and we are an integrated marketing communications firm. And you are right. We do all the things, everything from web design to social media to public relations to branding, SEO, all the things, digital marketing, and where they intersect. But I'm a little bit unique in terms of my background, and that has really helped me to create a vibrant, a thriving company based on storytelling. I am a former situation comedy writer. I used to write.
Oh, I never knew that.
You didn't know that? So
I did not.
Let me back up.
Sure.
I graduated from the Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. And the day after graduation, I was actually on a flight to Los Angeles and on a movie set working on the film Sister Act 2 the very next day.
Get out.
Yes.
I never knew that.
Yes, at the age of 21. And worked in entertainment for a while as production assistant on a few films. As I mentioned, Sister Act 2, Karina, with Whoopi Goldberg, and then became a writer's assistant on a few shows, including the Wayans Brothers, Living Single, worked on a bunch of pilots, and was blessed to work on a few shows as a writer. The first show was actually called Built to Last. I was a network television writer at the age of 25. Unfortunately, the show was, I joke, it was a great show, but doomed from the title because it wasn't built to last. It was only on for about 3 episodes on NBC. But, it's unfortunate because it was a great family show. It was supposed to be sort of the new Cosby show. And then wound up becoming a staff writer on the show Sister, starring Tia and Tamara Mowry. And did that for a while. And even before all of that, I was an executive in training at the Walt Disney Company, working specifically for Touchstone Pictures. So I spent probably about 10 years in Los Angeles in my
Wow.
20s. Yeah, it was awesome.
Wow. And I'm just in awe. I didn't know that about you, but now things are starting to click in my mind a lot more as you have your own, business in the DMV. Yeah. But what a great entry into the world of work.
It was fabulous. And I think it spoiled me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. Working with all those celebrities, they were so gracious and wanted to help me. Actually, I worked on my first film set when I was a junior at Morgan State. It was called the Cemetery Club. And Bill Duke has been a mentor of mine for many, many years, and even a client of Big Media Agency. So, it probably spoiled me a little bit for the world of work. I'm not gonna lie. When you're a writer, you're having all those catered meals to the writer's room. You have craft services.
100%.
I could get up and go to the gym and not get to work until 10 or so. Now, there were many late nights, so that was the trade-off.
Right.
I was amongst the most talented people ever. They were so funny. Like literally every day, my
Your
cheeks
jaw hurt.
hurt. I, I had to like rub my cheeks because they were so hilarious. And also, the majority of them were really, really gracious, really helpful to me. I had many mentors, and Warren Hutcherson, who is also a Morgan graduate and from Baltimore, and Yvette Lee Bowser, who created Living Single and many other shows.
So I have to ask you, back then, were there very many people in the room that looked like you?
So it
'Cause I
depends.
think it's different now. Like I feel
Well,
like it's different now,
it's
but like that was a while ago.
well,
And
yeah.
yeah.
So it depends on the show, right? So
Okay.
meant for the, African American themed shows, there were more writers of color. There were more
Mhm.
Black women as well. Um,
Right.
but other shows, the Everybody
I
Loves
mean,
Raymond of the world, they
yeah,
were, or
yeah, I'm
Friends,
like,
their writing staffs were predominantly white.
yeah, I just feel like that fits so with you and your pioneering spirit. Because that's when I think of you. I think of you as a connector and a storyteller, but also sort of forging the way so that women that are, maybe like your children's age can be like, oh, it's not just Shonda Rhimes and Ava DuVernay. It's like Christina Roy. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you
And
are role modeling, or and
Mhm,
by now, like where you are now in your career, like y-
mhm.
you have to be inspiring so many people. Like you probably don't even realize that.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, that's not my first thought when I wake up in the morning. As a matter of fact, I
No.
don't think that. What's funny is um, Shonda Rhimes and Ava DuVernay. I didn't really begin to hear about them until much later, even though I'm sure that they were. I think Ava DuVernay was a publicist in Hollywood first, and I'm not sure
Okay.
where Shonda began. Um,
Right.
so, but yes, there are people even who just people like my college friends even who thought it was so gutsy for you to move to California.
100%.
You graduated from college, and I can't believe I did it. Like I
Sometimes ignorance is bliss, and you're just
Right.
like, why? Of course, that's what I'm going to do. I have a couple friends that we graduated. They got in their car that was like a junker of a car, and they drove across country to go to live in California. And I'm like, who does that? And like thinks it's normal, but like people, like I think when you're that age, what have you got to lose? Really, honestly,
Exactly.
you can always come back to the East. You can always, you know, wait tables or you know, be a
Mhm.
hostess or, scrape
Something.
by, work in a
Right,
grocery store, like to
right.
just find your opportunities. But you do kind of have to put yourself in the epicenter of what it is that you desire, I think.
You do. And it's pretty funny because I often think, first of all, I can't believe I did that. Secondly, I cannot believe that my parents let me go.
Oh, 100%.
They, especially
100%.
my mother has always been so, protective. But I think what eased it was, so this whole journey began in college, actually. I was Morgan State University's first Thurgood Marshall Scholar. Very proud
Oh,
of
that's
that.
fantastic.
Yes, the Thurgood Marshall Foundation and the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund both award lots of scholarships across the nation today.
Right.
But in that year, I believe it was 1989 when I was a
Hmm.
freshman, I was in the first group. And so, as luck would have it, it's so strange how something that you initially think is really bad can turn into something really good. So,
100%.
right. So it was like the beginning of spring break of my junior year. I finished my last exam. I was an English.
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
exhausted. You know, those professors at Morgan State really, really wanted
Oh,
me.
they're no joke. Oh,
They're
they're no
no
joke.
joke. No joke. And so I'm coming down the stairs in the old Jenkins building, and that was quite a climb to go up. And you had to navigate
Hmm.
well to go down. Something happened. I'm not exactly. Sometimes I can be a little bit less graceful than others. my ankle kind of, it's like my leg went to the left, my ankle went to the right, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor, and I had
Oh no.
sprained my ankle.
Oh no.
Go to the emergency room and all of that.
Right.
So it was the beginning of spring break. So that landed me in my dorm room, propped up, with my foot
Right.
of crutches. And, I'm feeling sorry for myself. And then the phone rings. One of those big yellow phones, remember, like
Oh, yep.
half the size of your head.
Yep.
And I got a call from Joyce Payne, who was I believe, the executive director of the Thurgood Marshall Foundation, and a wonderful, wonderful woman. And she called and said, Christina, we have an opportunity for some of these scholars to go to New York to serve as student ambassadors to Bill Duke, Jack Hay, and Nancy Wilson. Are you available to go? And I think it was like a week later. I said, of course, absolutely. She
Of
said,
course I
well,
am with my foot propped up.
she said, okay, well, can you catch the train up there? You're, close. I said, yeah. So it was being held in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I did everything I could. I iced my foot, like
Yeah, you were going. Yeah, you
I
were
was
going.
going. I loaded up on the painkillers. Back then it was just
Yeah.
ibuprofen.
Right.
And I somehow hobbled up to New York, and I was so fortunate because I was one of the students assigned to Nancy Wilson during that filming. They were filming a PSA, and I think the theme was "Put a child in the seat of power" or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the late Nancy Wilson, I mean, what a lovely individual. Beautiful, talented, and she was so gracious and encouraging. So that night, all of the scholars met with the celebs at Sylvia's, a soul food restaurant in New York. And before going, I did a little research on the people I would meet. Okay.
Right.
And I was
Yeah, you have to. You
You
have
have to.
to.
So I was really focused on Bill Duke. At some point, so I used to read Essence magazine like religiously, like my
Right.
whole life. Like I had to have that magazine in my hand, and I'm so thankful for what it did for me in terms of self-efficacy as a Black woman.
Right.
And so at some point around that time, maybe a month before, I'd come across a profile of Stephanie Roan, who was I didn't even, so she was a Black film executive, I think at Paramount or someplace.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think of that being a thing. Like it
Right.
didn't occur to me that Black women could be executives, and that's how it happens. You see it, you believe it, and then you achieve it, right? And so
100%.
100%. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look up information about Bill Duke, Jack Hay, and Nancy Wilson. So I hobble on over to the library and try to find that, figure this stuff out. And I recognized Bill Duke he was Abdullah in the movie Car Wash. And he's
Oh,
been in
okay.
so many movies, Predator, there's so many. Like he's prolific in his acting, directing, producing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he was the one I wanted to connect with because I was going to be graduating the following year. And I thought, well, I could become a teacher with this English degree, or I could go to law school, but wouldn't it
Mm-hmm.
be cool to figure out some stuff to do in Hollywood?
Right.
So, now this is kind of the getting to the top is not always.
Right.
This is the little bad thing I did. I slid in and beat somebody out for a seat next to him at dinner.
You were very strategic. That's
I
all.
was very strategic. Back then, I was so motivated. And in part because, I wanted to blossom and grow, get out of Baltimore, love my
Mm-hmm.
mom, but I didn't want to live in her house.
Right.
So I
100%.
so I slid in next to Mr. Duke at dinner. I said, Mr. Duke, I'm Christina Royster. I'm a junior at Morgan State University. And I hear that you're going to be doing a movie in Pittsburgh this summer because I had done all the research and all the things.
Right.
I said, please, can you come let me work on your movie? I'll work for free. I'll find my own lodging, everything. I had no idea how I was going to do any of this. But what could he say? At
Right.
the time, I was a tiny little thing. I had my smile. I was, really,
Right.
um, excited. And he looked at me, he said, okay, well, call. called my production manager. His name was Ron Thompson. And I did. And that summer, I was working on the film The Cemetery Club. It starred Ellen Burstyn, Diane Ladd, Lady Kazan, Danny Aiello, and a host of others. And it was about these women who had lost their husbands and they would always see each other.
Cemetery. What a
And
great storyline.
yes, and they became so close, and going through that season of life, obviously there can be ups and downs, but it is really a story about the strength of female friendship. And it was such an eye-opener. My first time working on a movie set. And most of what I did was take care of the cast members, make sure that they had breakfast.
Yep. That's what you do.
That's what you
Yep.
do. I was in I think it was Honey Wagon Land, what you call those little trailers.
Right.
And I'll never forget every morning. And they were all so sweet to me. I was turning 21 that summer. Actually, my birthday during that time, they bought me gifts. Like, it was just amazing. But one thing I'll never forget is Diane Ladd. Diane Ladd would always say to me, "Now, Christina, you just tell those caterers that all Diane Ladd wants is a poached egg, a sliced tomato, and a little onion. And that's all Diane Ladd wants." And she would give me the same exact speech every morning. Really enjoyable. That's how I was able to memorize it. Olympia was incredible. She was always talking about her seaweed and soba noodles. That was way before I had heard anything about seaweed. And they were just amazing. So after that experience, I'd been bitten by the Hollywood bug, as they say. Oh, and in addition, 2 weeks into it, they paid me a production assistant salary. And
there you go.
Okay, so I was so good at my job. And then I also was able to find lodging at Carnegie Mellon because the hotel was next to the hotel where everybody else was staying, but it was booked because I came late in the game. So I would walk over there, catch the bus with them to set. And I really just can't believe, first of all, this was before the internet, or maybe I'm sure the military had the internet, but
Yeah.
I don't even understand how I was able to just connect those dots.
Well, so there's a saying that once you establish what your desire is and you sort of speak it into the universe, you don't have to worry about the how because it'll all like the universe will conspire on your behalf. And that's what I'm hearing, right? Like you were like, I want to be in this mix. I don't know how I'm getting there. I'm willing to take nothing, figure out the housing. Like the universe was like, oh, you need housing? Boom, here. Oh, you need a little money? Boom, here, right? And like at the same time, you were doing your part to show up and be accountable and like doing the best job that you could and presenting the best version of yourself and like in that learning and growth mindset. So like props to you.
Thank you.
And I really think that that is true in life, right? Like, and I do a lot of executive coaching where I'm like, don't worry about the how. Just really get crystal clear on the what. What is it that you want?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because that was before. So living in Los Angeles, I actually did become very aware of some of those sort of new thought
100%.
allergies. I used to attend a church that was actually pastored by the late Della Reese. And it was wonderful to, see lessons from her. But yes, the universe will conspire. And I just the other day I was looking at a video where Louise Hay was talking about that whole thing and what a great healer she was. But so after that, I was determined to get to Hollywood. So then I kept in touch with, they'll do
all your people,
all my people. And that's how I was able to wind up working on the set, right after I graduated. And it was incredible. I remember, it's almost like a movie scene. I remember initially they rented a black convertible Mustang for me with the drop top interior. And I'm 21 years old, driving around, listening to all the tunes of the day. It was amazing. But then I needed to stay there, right? I needed to continue to work. So done those two films, Sister Act 2 and then Karina, and then was able to get a job with the Walt Disney Company as a creative associate. And then decided to go back to my screenwriting roots, so to speak.
Okay.
At Morgan State, my minor was writing for television, and in many there were a lot of firsts in my career. So my
Mm-hmm.
class was the first class to have that as a minor and to be exposed to um,
Mm-hmm.
these programs. And actually, I forgot to mention that somewhere in there, and I don't remember exactly where, I was an intern for Sam Art Williams. Um, God rest his soul. He actually passed, I think, about a year ago or 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a Morgan grad, and he was the executive producer of The Martin Lawrence Show, also Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of really wonderful people and people who looked like me who
Mm-hmm.
really helped me to catapult my journey
Right.
and forward, and I was able to build on that. And then after a while, Hollywood felt a little tiring. It was just
Mm-hmm. It's time to come
uh,
back to Baltimore.
time to come back home. Um, there was so around the time that I began to get a little bit um, discouraged was
Mm-hmm.
when some of the sitcoms were going away and a lot of reality shows were coming in. So there were
Mm-hmm.
less jobs for writers. And then I noticed that some of my mentors who were at higher levels, like executive story editor, producer,
Right.
and they were going to some of the same meetings that I was going to. And I was a little baby writer, and I was like, oh,
Right.
how's this going to work?
Yeah, what's going on here? Right.
And I
It's like
missed
seeing the signs. It's like you saw the signs, like,
exactly.
and you got the like the spidey feeling, right? Like,
Spidey feeling. And
yeah.
I'm an only child, I missed my family, my parents. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was ill and she passed in 2008, but she was my girl. Like,
Mm-hmm.
check on grandma. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go back home, and I wound up my personal life continued to flourish. I have two
Mm-hmm.
daughters. My oldest is going to be 22,
Wow.
19 days from now, and my
Uh-huh.
youngest is going to be 14 in July.
Yeah.
Developed my personal life, got married, had babies. And then somewhere in there, I worked a few jobs that, weren't, related
Yeah.
to writing or anything.
Well, I know you followed me at that tech startup. So I had been the director of marketing and communications, and that's how I really came to know you. It was like 2009, 2010, I might have been 2010, and I was moving on, and you stepped into my shoes, and
What?
so
What's,
it
what?
was it was
Oh,
VMT and Social Toaster. Yeah, yeah, you followed me,
I'm sure.
right? Right, because then I went back into corporate. I left the
That's right.
startup world and I went into corporate because I kind of missed that. My whole background was corporate, and I got a really great offer to work for a global company. And I felt like that was my next big move. Was I'd worked nationally and I had worked in Canada, or in North America. Really, it was Canada and Mexico and the U.S. But I felt like I wasn't going to go anywhere if I didn't have global experience. And so I was really lucky. I got a job that was based in Baltimore, but they were headquartered in New York, and we had
Okay.
Edelman as our agency. So I would
Oh,
take the
wow.
train. Yeah, I would take
Wow.
the train. I would take the train to Stamford, Connecticut, or New York on the regular. And so yeah, that was sort of my first foray into I wanted to be like a global. I wanted that on my resume, right? But
That was very smart.
that's where I remember you had
Well,
come back to Baltimore and you were gonna, yeah, yeah.
so I'm so glad you remember. It feels like a whole lifetime ago. So in
Hmm.
between Hollywood and when you saw me at BMT and Social Toaster, I was a reporter for Baltimore City paper.
I
So I
think
don't
I
know.
knew that. Yeah, I
Okay,
think I
so
did know that. Yeah, I
yeah.
did know that. You were a
And
reporter.
so what I loved about that experience, working in the alt weekly space really
Hmm.
created such freedom in terms of the topics that I could write about. And, at the time I was the African American woman on staff, I think the only African American staff writer,
Hmm.
right on the writing staff. And my editor, Lee Gardner, who was so great, just and Brett McCabe, yeah, there were some really great people who I was able to learn from there. Um,
Hmm.
allowed me to write. I think one year I wrote 7 cover stories.
Wow.
Them were
That's
two
really,
parts. Yeah,
wow.
or the two
That's
parts.
big.
Isn't that big? And I was
That's big.
it fueled me. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a spiritual experience. Like sometimes when I would write those 5,000 word articles, I would
Mm-hmm.
feel like a presence. Okay, put
Right.
here, no, put that here. It was like automatic writing, so to speak. And there was,
Yeah, I call that divine downloads. That like
okay,
because it happens to me, right? It's like you don't know where it's coming from, but all of a
yeah.
sudden, like you're an open channel,
Hmm.
and you have the spiritual experience,
Hmm.
and it comes to you, and it comes out of you, and you're like,
Yep,
where did that even come from? That was
yep,
spiritual. It was,
yep.
and it's as a writer, it's one of the best feelings ever.
So
Um,
great.
like I get them on the regular for either like titles of things or article headlines, and I put them in my notes because I'll just be like,
Mhm.
where did that come from? Like I don't even know. And what I believe is that the universe has sent them to me and I have to grab them and use them, because if I don't, it's going to move on to somebody else. And so
That's
if I
true.
have something really good, I'm like, I got to action this, and like maybe
Yeah.
not right this minute, and I don't know where it's really kind of going, but if I stay with it, then something will come out and I'm like, I don't even know, like that was okay, you know? So that's interesting you had that experience,
And
because most
still,
writers do. Like you get it.
yes.
And it's not even like you're asking for it or looking for it. Because
Mhm.
there's times when I sit down and I was like, where do I start? You know, and I get that block, right?
It just hits me. It's just kind of, and it just happened the other day. There's an idea that I've been kicking around, and I know that I'm supposed to write a book, but now I'm realizing it's also a podcast, and it's also potentially a coach. I'm not, I've been a marketing coach, but I've not been like a life coach. Uh,
Right.
and so I think there's a coaching portion of it. And
100%.
yeah, and
100%. Well, and I think where you are in the season of your life, I mean, just as an outsider looking in and hearing your story, um, your people are probably you when you were 21, right? Like those are your people, right? And they are they're looking, right? And so you have to be visible so they can find you and find you in multiple ways, right? Because you have so much wisdom now that you have gained as
Mhm.
you've gone through and sort of evolved, right? As a storyteller, as a connector, as a podcaster, as a Morgan grad, as you know, and I saw on your
Mother.
link, yeah, mother. Well, and I saw on your LinkedIn, I was like, oh my gosh, like a week ago, you got your minority business, uh, disabled
Right.
business, and what's SBE? I forget what
So
SBE
it's
is, but
so it's small business enterprise, minority MB is minority business
right.
enterprise. DB is disadvantaged
Oh, disadvantage.
business
Okay. Yeah. So you
enterprise.
got all
And
the,
then
yeah, you got like, good for you. That's because, I know that process is really hard. And it's a lot of paperwork and a lot of like, you just got to stick with it. But then once you get it, I think that it will open doors
yes,
that you don't even know what they are yet.
yes,
Right. So I'm so
absolutely.
happy for you
Thank
that
you.
that's sort of on your like, and when you're looking for an integrated marketing communications like shop in the DMV or nationally or internationally, really, like big media agency is sort of your place to go. I also had a question for you.
Yeah.
When I was looking at your website, and one of the things that you had on there, which I was like, I don't know what this acronym is, it had to do with student athletes and NIL deals. So I get that like things have changed. So now if you're like
Yes.
the guy from Baltimore, Queen, Derek Queen, is that his
Mhm.
name?
Mhm.
Who has
Mhm.
all the deals, the Maryland
Yep.
basketball player?
Yep.
Like, is that what that is? What does NIL
Yeah.
stand for?
So NIL is name. The acronym stands for name, image, likeness.
Got
And
it.
so, we support athletes and match them with companies who are looking for athletes to represent them.
Got
And
it.
part of that is preparing those athletes for those deals. So, yes, you want
100%.
someone who is incredible on the court, on the field, etc. But you also want someone who has a strong social media presence and a positive social media presence. You want someone who can stand for something great
Yes.
that is aligned with that brand. So that's one of our newer services. But yes, we're getting quite a bit of interest.
Interest. Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm,
because that's like sort of the emerging space
mhm,
in many ways. And I would imagine it's similar to like when people get NFL deals or they get drafted and then the NFL has now got those programs where they can go through to help them learn about finance and
mhm.
learn how to be a business person, but
Yep.
also keeping their mental health in check and like all the resources that now get provided to
Mhm.
them. Because once you become that top level celebrity, if you don't have that foundation, and that's where your life coaching stuff comes in too, I'm sure, right? Because it's building that whole character of that person in an authentic way that they have a strong foundation, right? As
So,
a
yeah.
person, right?
Absolutely. So, because I'm a mother and because I'm a graduate of an HBCU and because I have clients who own nonprofits that really help young people,
Mm-hmm.
I often find myself speaking to young people about those ideals. You know, one of the core messages that I utilize is the fact that each person has a brand or a story. Whether you manage it or not, you have it.
Mm-hmm.
It travels with you. So the
Yes.
idea is that you should manage it. You need to make sure, I say to young people, one of my clients is Mentoring Male Teens in the Hood, a nonprofit in Baltimore City, and they invest in boys and build strong men ages 8 to 18. And what I
Mm-hmm.
often say to those young men is that I want to know that when you wake up in the morning, you are managing your story. You're listening to your parents. You're getting out of the house on time. You're prepared for
Mm-hmm.
school, et cetera, and so forth. Because at the end of the day, that affects how the story is told about my client. Well, if they're going to go and be on the news and talk about their trip last summer to Alabama, where they were all able to see the legacy sites, you know,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention in school and paying attention at the field trip, they're going to be able to share much more resonant thoughts about that experience. It's important because there are young people in Baltimore who may be watching the news with their parents or may come across them in school who need to hear that message. They need to
Mm-hmm.
understand that there's something beyond their neighborhood. They need to understand that if their peer has the power to actually articulate something unique and different about their experience, that they too can wind up having that same experience someday, or they can have it by osmosis or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think as an extension of my motherhood to Morgan and Taylor, my two daughters, I have been very focused on speaking to young people. I've spoken at Morgan State several times to English and communications classes. Sorry, a little technical difficulty there.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
I've spoken just, one to one to various young people. We always have interns at Big Media Agency. I think that is my responsibility to teach young
Mm.
people, more about
I
the
and
business.
when I was teaching, I promoted your internships to my students.
Oh, you did.
I did. I did because I really feel like part of my mission as a connector like you is to give back to the young people and to show them the way when like nobody was showing me the way, right? But I've learned a lot,
Yep.
school hard knocks kind of thing. And I remember graduating from college and I didn't have a job and I was in total panic. My parents were in the middle of a divorce. I didn't have a place to live. I was basically homeless. I didn't have a car. I didn't know where my next, 2 cents were going to come from. And so I have students that are in the same exact
Mhm.
situation. I mean, I had two parents. They have sometimes nobody. It might be their grandmother or it might be their aunt or somebody that's raising them that is their support system who hasn't gone to college, doesn't know, like, what it
Mhm.
means to plan your career or anything like that. So anytime I could offer up anything that I would see, like your internships, I was like, these are the types of opportunities that are out there. Connect
Yeah.
with me on LinkedIn because I use my network, right? I offer that to you, right? And you're one of the people that's in my network and you connect other people, which I think is really important.
It is so important. A lot of times I'll say to people, we think our lives are about the job, the house, the things. That's not what our lives are about at all. Like, I'm happy to be a storyteller and a marketing communications, media firm owner, professional, all of that. But I know that at the core of my life is my responsibility to make somebody else's life better, to somehow
Amen.
to their
Amen.
lives. And because,
Amen.
and I know that because it's happened to me so many times where people who some people may think are on high, who are lofty, who have these positions, have taken a moment and, sat down across the table with me and said, hey, here's what I've learned. Use this in your life. Um, Bill Duke in particular always said to me, I can't have the exact words, but basically it's our responsibility. You know, if you receive something great from me, it's your responsibility to pass it on to someone else. The whole idea
100%.
of, each one teach one. And
100%.
it's funny because even in my daughter's lives, my oldest daughter, Morgan, is going to be graduating from Morgan State University in December. And
Mm-hmm.
she is actually in the screenwriting and animation program that is the offshoot or evolved from the writing for television minor that I had at Morgan so many
Right.
years ago. It's a direct trajectory. So if I hadn't gone to Hollywood, she wouldn't believe that she has the opportunity now to write screenplays and, work in the
Mm-hmm.
industry. That's a direct tie, but it's our responsibility to reach out for those who are not in our direct
100%.
line of influence and help them.
I really agree with that. I really agree with that. So let me ask you about, like, if you were to give yourself advice to your younger self or to others, um, now that you've kind of are where you are, and I want to know about that, and I also want to know what do you have in your line of sight for your vision for the next, say, 10 years?
Okay, so the advice to
Mm-hmm.
myself would involve a bunch of don'ts. Don't hesitate.
Oh, I love it.
Don't hesitate. Don't doubt yourself. Don't settle. Don't talk yourself out of it. So as a younger woman, I know that I had a lot of, questions. Can I really do this? Can I really do that? The best advice that I received when I was in Hollywood is not about writing or film or
Right.
television. It was from a woman named Danita Patterson, who still lives in Los Angeles. And at some point, I think she worked for Will Smith's company, Overbrook. She's worked for, I think she's a
Mm-hmm.
producer. She does amazing things. And I remember being at an industry function with her. And she's ever graceful. Those people who show up, they look perfect. They speak perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a little bit of anxiety. Like I was like maybe mid-20s and I was not
Right.
feeling as polished.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, Danita, how do you do what you do? She said, honey, you just have to fake it till you make it. And I'm not saying that you should be disingenuous, but what I
Right.
am saying is what young people don't understand and realize is that everybody is putting on a show. Not that
100%.
they're not being authentic in some form or fashion, but nobody has the answers. Your answers are individualistic to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can maybe take a little bit of what somebody says and put it with something that you have. You really have to figure yourself out, to figure
Mm-hmm.
your life out and figure out, how to move forward. I would have started my business earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I came back, but I probably would have looked at other opportunities in Hollywood and maybe not talked myself out of that. It was just a very dog eat dog type of existence.
I
And
also think that time when I look back on that time, the economy was, I mean, it's wobbly now, but it was wobbly back then.
Mhm,
It was very
mhm.
wobbly.
Yeah.
And so it was very tenuous. And, when you don't really have sort of, and it might be false sense of security, but like when it's really bumpy, then it's like that's when you start to hesitate and talk yourself out of stuff.
Exactly. And I think just as important as the career piece is the partnership piece. And I think, when I say don't settle,
Mm-hmm.
I was really chopping at the bit to get married. And, when 30 hit, it was like, oh God, I'm 30. Now what? And it's more of an emphasis on making sure you are self-aware enough to find someone who is healed and who really values you as you are and
I
how
love that.
as you hope to move forward.
I love that.
And so those are important. I think those are important lessons. In terms of my future, so
Yeah.
I am seeing myself as a media entity without a box. I'm not putting myself in a box. I've worked hard to erase the containers
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
others have put around me. So starting new services and verticals and things that aren't
Mm-hmm.
as you know, some of my peers are not doing. Fully embracing AI.
Right. I saw something you had posted. I was like, oh, that girl, I gotta start listening to what she's saying. Cause like I'm like, I feel like I'm the dog chasing the tire of the car as it goes down the road, right? And really having like I understand on the technical side, but I don't understand all the capabilities that it can bring to a creative. And I'm really trying to get my arms around that. Because I do believe that AI can pick up some sort of lower level tasks so that you can spend more of your creative time and energy on sort of the more strategic things, that problem solving and things, and what you can offer to your clients, right? And so
Yeah.
yeah.
But it can also position you well in any kind of project. You just have to know which questions to ask the
Right.
AI tool.
That's what a
That's
lot of people say.
the
It's the prompts.
prompt.
Yeah, it's the prompts. Yeah.
And really, if you have a project, how can you break it up in sections? Like
Hmm.
something very small would be, for example, I use Google Meet all the time. My conversations are recorded. You can actually take that transcript, put it in Chat GPT, and ask it to spit out the action items.
Yes.
So you
And the
don't even have
summary,
in the
executive
summary.
summary.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's something small, but that saves so much time in my
100%. 100%.
you know so the other thing is I am working on some Hollywood projects. I'll just say I have a piece of intellectual property that I've developed with a writing partner, that a mentor of mine who is a very well known um writer producer
Hmm.
is um rewriting, and prayerfully will hit the marketplace. I'll just say
Good for
sometime.
you.
So
Yeah. Good for
I
you.
am, now that I know what I know,
Hmm.
that I don't have to let my limiting beliefs contain my
Hmm.
success, my movement, my progress, or anything like that. I'm blowing
Hmm.
away. If
Good
there's
for you,
stuff that might
Christina.
catch my thought process saying,
Hmm.
oh, I can't do this or I can't do, no. That's an absolute no, and then I go do it.
Right. I just finished this book called Inner Excellence. It was some NFL player was reading it on the sidelines, and I was like, oh, I have to get it. And it's they're coming out with a new edition, but it's written by a sports psychologist who um, coached and mentored a lot of golfers. Um, it was the best book. I'm going to send it to you because that fits in with all of that and has to do with your mental toughness and your inner game, and how once you master that, you're unstoppable basically.
You are. And those are the qualities that I wish that I had learned earlier. But the thing about trials is that you learn those lessons. So
If you take the opportunity, because what I see is sometimes people who aren't self-aware don't realize that there's a lesson in your trials and tribulations, right? And so you can turn that around as you are going through the hard things, whatever your hard things are, because we all go through them and we will continue to go through them. But if you can pull the thread on the lesson,
Mhm.
then that is what is the most important. But not everybody thinks that way. But once you start thinking that way, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it's like the sky's the limit.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
in terms of future, because I have um a physical representation of my legacy, my daughters. So
Yes.
my mission is to teach them the same. My oldest is, as I said, going into a field similar to mine, and I hope to bring maybe some of her capabilities in-house in big media agency. I'd like to launch big media films and have her do some of
Exciting.
the things like that. Um, my youngest is very much following the other road, two roads diverged in the yellow wood, Robert Frost. She's
100%.
taking the other less traveled path. She wants to be a surgeon. And I'm so proud of her for coming to that realization at a young age. And so it could have something to do with Grey's Anatomy. She says it doesn't have.
Oh, that's so funny. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes. Something in that show landed with her. So let me ask you, my finale question is, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done? You did talk about like just throwing caution to the wind when you graduated from Morgan, but like was that it, or was there maybe something more recent where you're like, I need to really pull myself and have some grit and determination and courage and just jump and hope the parachute appears? Like, is there anything like that?
Yeah, so I think there are many. So I typically do things afraid, and there have been many brave things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
But I think probably the bravest thing is I got my LLC in 2010 and was operating much more of a consultancy while I
Mm-hmm.
worked other jobs.
Right.
And in 2022, I found myself in a toxic job situation. And I said, that's it.
As we all do. As we all do.
Yeah, it's either me or them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing me, um,
Mm-hmm.
affecting my health. And I just said, you know what, that's it. And I just, I left that situation and I went full-fledged into like, big,
All in.
and
Yeah, all in.
I haven't had another job since then. I'm
Good for
all,
you.
all in. And when I made that decision, the contracts started coming. Just like you said about the universe supporting me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about that intention. Yeah, I've listened to Wayne Dyer a lot, not since the
Same.
80s, but I've watched a lot of
Yeah.
those public media specials. And that word intention is so powerful,
Mm-hmm.
you know. We think that as people, as entities, we are singular, but we are not. We're interconnected.
100%. I
Energy
believe the
is
same.
so interconnected to so many things, people, you know, the universe can, in fact, um, feel your intention. And I do come from a much more sort of traditional Christian background. I'm a member of an AME church, the Great Kingdom Fellowship AME Church. But
Mm-hmm.
I also pay attention to some of those other spiritual principles because in all things you have to know what's true for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot dismiss, intuition is very big for me as an artist. I grew
Mm-hmm.
up, my father has been a visual artist forever. He was a
Mm-hmm.
professor at Morgan State. I grew up in a home where I saw beautiful works of art every
Mm-hmm.
day on the
Mm-hmm.
wall. And it made me feel and believe that I could make something before the Maker's Revolution. I was
Mm-hmm.
making poetry. I was, writing my
Mm-hmm.
thoughts down. I was writing essays to my grandfather. That's how this
Mm-hmm.
really started. He
Mm-hmm.
made me write a letter to him every week during the summer to describe what I did during the summer. So I had to make being a volunteer at the Red Cross sound really interesting.
That's amazing, though. But there's a philosophy of surrounding yourself with beauty and opulence,
Mm,
and then beauty and opulence comes into your life.
mm,
So that's so special that you experienced that as a child, and that has inspired you and continues to inspire you. So uh, that's beautiful. That's really, and I like what you say. You have to figure out what's true for you,
mhm.
right? You really do.
You
You
really
really do.
And, those urges that you get, as we talked about earlier, even sometimes when I'm in church, how I feel the spirit, I get chills.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I sing with the choir, and when I sing with the
Mm-hmm.
choir, that the spiritual experience is like none other. All
Mm-hmm.
of those things are
Mhm.
of, me, but
Who
also
you are.
approach who I am,
Mhm.
but my approach to other things, other people. When you keep thinking about somebody in a day and you're like, something's going on, I got to call that person.
Yes.
Like all of those things are really, really important. Um, because
Yes.
it's it, you get the thoughts for a reason. You get the urge for a reason.
Hmm.
You get the chill for a reason.
Hmm.
Um,
I would agree with you.
yeah.
I would agree because, like, and it goes back to what you said about being interconnected in the energetic exchange. And
Mhm.
so it's almost like you can't see it, but there's something energetically going on that gives you that nudge. I think what happens, and I think it's happened a lot during COVID and after COVID, is if we don't allow ourselves to be still, we miss it. It goes right by us. And
Yeah.
so that's the importance of prayer and meditation and intention setting and things like that on the daily and the gratitude and all of the things. But thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been
So awesome.
wonderful. I'm
Thank
so,
you.
so grateful for all of the wisdom that you've shared. And I will be sure to put in the show notes everything about Big Media, everything about you, how people can get in touch with you. And so I'm sure people will be connecting with you and your firm. Um, I really appreciate your authenticity, your honesty, your candor, and again, I'm a connector, I'm a podcaster, I'm a storyteller. So I feel like we're kindred spirits,
Yes,
also
we
being
are.
from Baltimore.
Yes.
And
Where did you go
so
to high school? Sorry. Where did you go to high school?
I went to John Carroll.
Oh, okay. I went to Mercy
Yeah.
High School.
Yeah.
That's the question in Baltimore that
It is. I know. It's
isn't
the craziest.
that
Who
crazy?
cares where you went to college, right? Even though you did go to the Morgan State, like in university, the HBCU,
Yes.
that everybody knows and loves. But yeah, my grandparents lived down the street. They lived off of Cold Spring Lane, so very familiar with the campus. But I just thank you, and thank you for what rays of light you're putting out there, or your divine feminine energy that you're taking with you through the world. I think the world needs more of that.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And I look forward to the world actually receiving more divine feminine energy and being run by more women. Because what we're experiencing now would not be happening.
I would agree. I would agree.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. I hope you found a gem or two that will motivate you to change your mindset, pursue your dreams, and fulfill your soul's purpose. I believe that we can go farther and faster when we connect in the spirit of positivity and understand how we individually can serve humanity. The world needs more love, so keep shining, ladies. I can be found on my corner of the interwebs at tracym.com, and I'd love to connect on social. Just Google me and my SEO will tell you more about what I'm up to as I step into my purpose as a storyteller. I love you, brave girls. Now it's time for you to step up your game and become the best possible version of you. I believe in you, and you've got this.